Rightio, so the last video was all about sitting and what we can do in a seated position. This one is going to be about standing and what we can do in a moving position. The body loves to move. Fascia loves to be moved. It needs to be hydrated. And that old adage of use it or lose it has never been more applicable. In this time where we are spending more and more time at home and our opportunities for going out are limited to once a day or maybe twice if you're feeling naughty and illegal, then we have to make the most of it. What I'm suggesting is that when we go for a walk, I want you to be a bit more mindful and I want you to think about certain things, and if anything, it's going to jazz up your day somewhat rather than just walking the same old loop round and round in circles. So when you think about walking, I want you to think about the whole leg. So for a lot of people, they think their leg finishes here at their knee, and I often see people just kicking the foot out and forgetting about the rest of it. Some people will think that the leg stops up here, which is not an unreasonable request or assumption indeed, but I want you to think further up. I want you to think up here. There's a muscle called the psoas, which if you've done sessions with me, you will have heard me speak about, and we start to affect it in session 4, which is this up here in the inside leg, and the other end of it we get to it up here in session 5. It's actually quite deep to the spine. It's in front of it, but it's quite deep, and it's the only muscle to cross this pelvic bowl. It's pretty useful for walking. In fact, it's pretty useful for a lot of things, but we really notice it, and I really want you to be aware of it, even if you don't know what it looks like. You can go and look it up online, but I want you to imagine that there's a muscle from about here down to here, and then do remember you've got muscles on the front, you've got muscles on the back, and you've got muscles on the outside, and you've also got muscles fanning back on the inside. So as you're walking, I want you to be aware of all the components from here down to your feet. And as you're walking, I want you to try and feel into them. Like, what feels sticky? What feels stuck? Could you get a little more stretch out of something? You're not going to be with anyone. Nobody's going to be laughing at you. So here goes. We're going to be taking nice long walking steps, and perhaps even do it in slow motion. And as you're coming along, I want you to feel the stretch. And you'll see, well, maybe you can't with my dress on, but I'm trying to elongate my leg from my up here right down to my toe and my heel. So you can start thinking, really explore the elongation of the front of your legs, the backs of your legs, and think, oh, is that a bit sticky? Could I stretch it more? Now, don't go too far because we don't want anything snapping, because I can't do anything about fixing that right now. But have a play around, you know. There should be plenty of times of the day where it's quieter than others. So you want to think long legs as you go forward, perhaps thinking about the adductors fanning back in your inner leg. The other thing that you can play around is walking backwards. That will bring attention to your backs of your legs, your bottom and your heel. So that way you're going to lead with your heel. Again, you're going to look a little peculiar, but who cares, quite frankly. We just need to go about our business any way we know how. And then just go for a little meander. Stop the exercises and go back to your normal pattern. Is there a difference? Are you now more aware of things that you weren't before? Do you have more movement somewhere than you have before? And then as a complete reverse switcheroo, I want you to try and shuffle. Do a kind of commuty, shuffly, I don't care, kind of rubbish, 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 rubbish. And you'll notice, I hope you'll notice, that by taking teeny tiny steps, maybe looking down at the floor, not being able to use the whole length of our legs, it will feel a bit squished and it will feel uncomfortable, and hopefully it might inspire you to then go back to those nice long strides that we know that we're able to do. And final session exercise, look at the dog. There's going to be hundreds of dogs. People are going to be walking dogs all over the place. Just look at the spine and you'll see that there's this nice little wiggle. Now, spines and hips are supposed to wiggle, And it's the same of us. We're just bipedal as opposed to the quads of an animal. But our spine and our hips are supposed to move. And you can see in other cultures around the world where they are more free in their movement, how beautiful it looks. We in the West seem to have got quite rigid and quite tight, and we need to loosen that up a little bit. So again, if it bothers you, find a time of day where you know no one's going to be around. And I really want you to maybe put your hands on your hips even and really go for an exaggerated wiggle. Backwards, forwards, side to side. And go as far as the wind takes you. And I can promise you, nobody will probably give you the slightest bit of notice. For example, I remember when I was teaching skiing, we often gave people exercises to try and master a particular skill. And we would do the exaggerated version of what I wanted in order that they might find this place where I would hope they were going to go to. But quite often, whilst I would do an exaggerated demo, they would move from maybe this to this. And to them, that was a huge change. And they were very conscious, like, oh my goodness, am I doing it right? I must look silly. And I was like, actually, you look pretty good. You just needed to make that big thing. So from going from one extreme to the other, you'll then find a more realistic, movable patch. And I can almost guarantee you, everybody is going to be staring into their phones. Nobody is going to be looking at you at all. The only exception to that is if you put on some Mr. Motivator brightly fluorescent coloured outfit and have music blaring and drawing your attention to yourself that way. But other than that, I promise you, nobody is going to be looking at you. They're going to be interested in their own things, their own dog, their own phone conversation, their own mind. So just try it. See how you go. Let me know how you get on. You may feel, I'm hoping, you might feel a little freer, a bit looser. And as we can hydrate this fascia by moving it around in whatever way we need to do, I think you'll find the aches and pains will subside or possibly even go away. Now, if this was too much to take on board, or you have a question about something particular, or there's something that's troubling you, by all means get in touch and let's schedule a one-to-one session and see if we can get you back on track again.